Hello, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to late night transfer news show. I think if you're living in Canada in the Eastern time zone, it is a late night show. We're living up to the moniker of this channel. One of those rare times that we do that. But nonetheless, welcome if you're watching this, and thank you for being here. Or any time that you're watching this later on as well. Thank you so much for watching this show. As I said, we're going to talk about the transfer news from this afternoon. So we did one show in the afternoon, of course. We covered a lot of the big news of the day. If you haven't seen that one yet, please do go and watch it. I think it's well worth a watch. But we're kind of also following up some other news that has come through towards the end of the day. So we're going to do a roundup of that here as well. So please remember to smash a like on this video if you enjoy it. Do comment and share your thoughts on everything that we discuss. And of course, if there's anything that you want to discuss, mention that as well in the comments below. And definitely, let's have the conversation. If you're here, let's do that. And of course, do subscribe to our channel if you're watching this for the first time. Really appreciate your support. Very, very close to 450 subscribers. So please do subscribe and help us cross that landmark. So let's make that happen. Let's make that happen. All right, let's get right into it. Let's get into some of the transfer news show. And right at the top, as we said with the caption, Kevin de Bruyne, he is going to stay at Manchester City. That has been confirmed. Well, not confirmed, but that has been said by Pep Guardiola. He's basically said that the reports that came out yesterday about Kevin de Bruyne agreeing a deal with Al-Ittihad, personal terms with them, is completely fake. This was also mentioned by Fabrizio Romano, of course, yesterday, but it's now been coming from the horse's mouth itself. It's come from Pep Guardiola, who said that's not true. He wants to keep him. He wants to, work with him in this coming season as well. So that now has been done. So it does look like Kevin de Bruyne will be staying at Manchester City, which then again leads into the question about all these links to Eberechi Eze and all these other players. What is all that about? Like, what's happening there? Which just tells me that maybe some players might be leaving that may not be, we may not have heard of yet. I think someone like Jack Grealish probably is leaving. I can't see him staying at the club. I think he will be going. And it's possible that maybe Julian Alvarez might be leaving as well, because that is another news that has come out, is that City have had discussions with Julian Alvarez about leaving Manchester City. They want to keep him. They're talking to him about wanting to keep him, and they've had the discussion. There will be more discussions. As we said on this show before, Julian Alvarez has been very much linked with Atletico Madrid. He wants to go there. Atletico Madrid want him because they need a replacement for Alvaro Morata. Alvarez has not been playing first team football regularly. He's basically back up to Erling Haaland, and he wants to have a more sort of first team guaranteed first team role. He still plays lots of games because he can cover on the wings as well. So he does play, and with all the injuries that happened last season, he did play quite a lot of games. And I think with City, the number of games that they play every season, because they go deep in all cup competitions as well, it is possible he will play a lot of games anyway. But maybe Alvarez, in his mind, he thinks, I want to be the star man now. I'm the guy that Messi wants to play with, in Argentina. So I want to be that guy for a club. I don't want to be, a supporting act. Sometimes players feel that way. Some players don't want to be supporting acts. Some players are more than happy being supporting acts in a trophy-winning team. But some players don't want that. They want to be the main person. They want to be the go-to guy for a club, for a trophy-winning team. But they want to be the go-to guy at a team. And so maybe Alvarez feels that way too. And so he has asked, he's interested in a transfer. This is what we're hearing. Of course, there's been no confirmation. It's not like Alvarez has come and told me or told anyone that he wants to leave. This is just what we hear. But I think that is possible, that he's thinking, I want to go somewhere else, and I want to, be the main man, because I can be the main man. And certainly he's very talented. Like, if he wasn't playing for Manchester City, obviously United should have signed him. As a United fan, I think he's that good. He's a really good player. I did want United to sign him, when City actually got him in the end. I think I'd said United should have signed him at that time, and unfortunately that deal never happened. But he's a fantastic player. I think he's a very multifaceted, very talented. I think as a player, I think he has more strings to his bow than Erling Haaland. I think Erling Haaland is, a world class, legendary goal scorer in the making. He's going to be, one of the top goal scorers in world football. He is going to become that on this trajectory that he's on. He is going to become one of the best goal scorers of all time, without a shadow of a doubt. That's what Erling Haaland will achieve. But you feel that his ceiling, aside from goal scoring, I think is a bit low. I'm just going to reduce that. Is a bit low. I think aside from that, I don't think he'll ever be. I don't think he'll ever become the player that he threatened to be in his first season in Manchester City, when he was banging in goals so fun. We all thought, my God, this guy could be, some player. But actually, what we have learned over the last year and a half, maybe even, is that he's actually very limited. Outside of his goal scoring, he's actually a very limited player. He's still, and just to be clear, his goal scoring, masks a lot of that, but his goal scoring is really phenomenal, right? What he gives in goals is what most teams would kill for. They would kill to have that. That's what Erling Haaland gives. The problem is, if he's a 10 out of 10 in goal scoring, he's probably more like a 5 and a 6, or at best a 7 out of 10 in other departments. And not even 7, actually he's probably more 5 and 6 in other departments. So that goal scoring kind of masks his deficits. Whereas I feel with Julian Alvarez, he's probably an 8 or 9 in goal scoring at this moment in time. Probably might get better with more game time, but I think right now he's an 8 or a 9 in goal scoring. But then he's 7.5 in other departments, which makes him slightly bit more complete in terms of what he offers. And I think that's what makes him such a favorite for managers as well, because they like what he offers. So he obviously sees that, and he obviously thinks, am I going to be a starting striker? Maybe he thinks, because he'll always, he could be an option on the wing, right? But maybe he thinks, I want to play as a striker. Sometimes players want that as well. They want to leave because they want to be starting striker. Like, there are certain players who play on the wing, and they do a job, but at some point they think, what, I'm actually a striker. I'm not a winger. I'm doing this for the team, but I want to go and be a striker. I want to play as a striker. And if I can't play as a striker here, I'll go somewhere else and be as a striker. There are countless examples of that. Where players have left clubs because they were played out of position and they wanted to play a different position. And so it could very well be the case with Alvarez as well, where he thinks, I'm never going to be a starting striker at Manchester City. And that is true. I don't think for the foreseeable future, I don't see him being a starting striker for Manchester City. And the reason for that is I don't see Erling Haaland going anywhere. At least for another 2 years, I don't see that happening. It is possible. The only club, I think you have got to think about which clubs might want to buy him and which clubs would be able to afford him. And the only 2 clubs in world football at this moment in time, there's only 3 clubs actually who would be able to afford him. One of them is Manchester United, which is never happening. And then you've got Real Madrid and Barcelona, the only other 2, because Barcelona actually can't afford him, but they find ways to make these kind of deals happen. So they're the only one or the only 2 clubs that could afford him. Barcelona might look at him as a replacement for Robert Lewandowski next season, but will they be able to stump up the cash to sign him? That's a big question. Real Madrid are not going to buy him because they've already got Mbappe now. They don't need him anymore. So, the question is, Haaland, if he's not going to go to Barcelona next season, he's not going anywhere. And then, after that, the following season as well. I just don't see the likes of Milan or PSG. I don't think he'll want to go to PSG. And I don't see the likes of Milan or, Bayern Munich or Juventus or Inter signing him. They're being able to sign him, right? Whether they may want to sign him, but I just don't see the economics working out. So the only clubs that could afford him are the clubs that either don't need him anymore, or that he would never play for, or, the ones that really have to strain to get him. And then the question is, does he even fit? Does Haaland even fit Barcelona's style of play? That's a big question as well to ask. Does he even fit their style of play? My answer is probably no at this point. I don't think he fits their style of play. So it's lots of things. It's lots of things to consider. But like I said, with that in mind, Alvarez might be thinking, I'm not never going to get a chance to be a starting striker for Manchester City, so I have to go somewhere else. And that is possible. But we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with City. I'd be very happy if Julian Alvarez leaves Manchester City, because I think he's a phenomenal player in the making. At least he's a very good player. And him leaving City weakens City. So obviously we'll be very happy if that happens as a United fan, selfishly. But let's see what City do. Speaking of Manchester City as well, there's no deal done for Ederson either. That also is now on hold at this moment in time. Ederson, of course, agreed terms with Al Nassr. That didn't happen. They went for Bento instead. He's agreed terms with Al-Ittihad, but there's still a valuation gap at the moment. Al-Ittihad still haven't managed to close that gap. I'm not sure what the Saudi clubs are thinking that are trying. I mean, of course, you've agreed personal terms with Ederson, and that's great. Are they thinking, is there something that we don't know about? And put this in the comments if you have some information on this, because is there something that I'm not hearing about which shows that Ederson is disgruntled? Because I've never heard Ederson saying he wants to leave. There's been no indication that he wants to leave. It's not like Manchester City have a short list of goalkeepers. They've already said if Ederson leaves, Ortega will be number 1. So what that says is that they don't really have goalkeepers, that are waiting in the wings. It is possible. The only explanation, that, as I say it out loud, the only explanation that I have is somewhere Ederson feels threatened by Ortega, and feels that he needs to leave while he's still number 1, rather than stay and then get benched by Ortega. That is the only explanation that I can see, because otherwise, I see no reason why Ederson wants to leave. And so I see no reason why clubs are thinking that they can get him on the cheap. Because if you're going to pay 60 million euros for Ederson, that is a fantastic deal. 60 million euros for Ederson is a fantastic deal. If you can get 50 million euros, that's even better. But that's, 60 million, 50 million, that's a very reasonable price to pay for Ederson. I see no reason why any club would not want to pay that. When you're negotiating with an Ederson, I said this yesterday, I spent so much time talking about this yesterday as well. If you're negotiating for an Ederson, you've got to pay the transfer fee for an Ederson. And 50 million euros, 60 million euros for Ederson is totally reasonable. So why do they think that they're getting it, that they can get him for 30 or 35 million, right? What is the logic and what is the explanation behind that? Is there something that we don't know that these clubs know that they think they can do it? And of course, City for their part has said it's not going to happen. So obviously that information is not correct. But somewhere something, why are the clubs getting this information? Why are the clubs thinking that they can do this deal at that price? Is a question that I think is worth asking and worth thinking about. But if anybody knows, put that in the comment section, because I'm intrigued by that. Been intrigued by that for quite a while. But yeah, I have no idea why clubs think they can do that. So let me know if you have an answer for that. But anyway, that's on Manchester City. We'll move on from that now. And we'll talk about AC Milan. So AC Milan, there's a few things actually on the tap for AC Milan as well. So if you're a Serie A fan, of course, talking about AC Milan. So number one, of course, is that they had agreed personal terms with Youssouf Fofana. Well, actually, we'll leave that Youssouf Fofana for the end because I think that will work out better as we go forward. But AC Milan are actually interested in signing Arda Guler from Real Madrid on loan. Arda Guler, who was signed last season. He wants to get more regular game time. He is, of course, competing with Brahim Diaz and Jude Bellingham for that number 10 spot. And so he obviously believes that he's not going to get regular game time. I think he probably will get quite a bit of game time, but he will not be a starter either. I don't think he'll be a starter this season. So he feels that he needs to move on, go somewhere else on loan. And AC Milan are interested in signing him, along with Bayer Leverkusen. So Bayer Leverkusen and AC Milan are both interested in signing Arda Guler on loan. Obviously, they feel that they've got some potential and they've got something that they can do there. So I think it would be a good deal. I think either club would be a good deal. I think AC Milan might be better because I feel Leverkusen, they might have players in his position that he will compete with. I think Wirtz plays in his position and he's not displacing Wirtz. So unless there is some kind of other position that they're seeing for him, or they're trying to reinvent him as something else, I feel like going to Leverkusen might be the same thing as going to Madrid. Staying at Madrid might be the same thing as going to Leverkusen, but I think he'll struggle for game time. I think AC Milan might be an easier route for him in terms of game time. So he might very well be thinking, so from that perspective, I think AC Milan would be a better option. But that being said, I think would AC Milan actually help his development in terms of playing for La Liga? I don't think Serie A players, transfer all that well always to La Liga. I could be wrong. I'm just trying to think of how many Serie A players have gone to La Liga and then actually done well there. I can't think of too many at the moment. I'm sure there must be, but I can't think of too many at the moment. So I feel Bundesliga players have better luck when they come to La Liga and they play there. Like Bellingham, of course, last season was sensational. Toni Kroos was good as well. So was a legend as well. So there is more success stories there. From Serie A, I'm trying to think how many players have come to Madrid and how many of them have actually done well. Or not Madrid, but just even come to Spain from Serie A, and how many of them have actually done well. And I'm struggling to think of too many at the moment. I'm sure there are. I'm just struggling to think of them. So from that perspective, even though he'll get more game time at Milan, will it prepare him to be able to excel at Madrid? That's the question. Maybe going to Leverkusen would be better for him in terms of if he does play there, he'll be more equipped to come back and perform well in La Liga for Real Madrid. So it is there. It is a bit of a up and down, catch-22 kind of situation as to what is better for him at this moment in time. But I'm not sure what the correct answer is. I'm not sure. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Do you think Ante Guler should go to AC Milan? Should he go to Leverkusen? Should he stay at Real Madrid? Sometimes it's better to stay where you are. Maybe he'll get more opportunities as well. So let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what do you think. But I think you should go to Milan. I do think that from a playing point of view, you should go to Milan. But then it's kind of but then going to Leverkusen would not be so bad either. But I think Milan might be better for him. Even though, as I said, I think Serie A players do struggle to replicate that form in La Liga. I think from his developmental point of view, I think going to AC Milan might be better for him at this moment in time. So I would say that that's where that is. But I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Leverkusen. Let me just put I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Leverkusen. But I think Milan might suit him better in terms of playing time. And with speaking of Milan, of course, Newcastle United are interested in signing their defender Malik Thiaw. He's had a good season for AC Milan. I saw him play a few games last season, and he was really good for AC Milan. I thought he was better than Tomori on many occasions. I do think he can play a couple of positions. I think he can also play right back, if I'm not mistaken. But he's mainly a centre back, and Newcastle might be interested in a centre back, so they are looking at him as a potential option. I think Milan would be stupid to let him go. I mean, the money is right. Obviously, Milan will do the deal because they're not exactly financially well off these days. So they might do the deal if the money is right. And I'm not sure what a good price tag would be. But I think Milan should do all they can to keep him. I think they should definitely not want him to leave, because the last thing you would want is to let good players go. I think Milan need to get back to the top. They need to start. They will need to challenge Inter Milan next season. I don't think they can. Inter Milan were far and away the best team last season. Without a shadow of a doubt, they were far and away better than everybody else. and you want to make sure that that you've got to come back in, and you've got to make sure that you don't let your best players leave. So it is imperative that they keep him, and they can't let him go. And I hope they do keep him. I hope they yeah, I hope they don't consider selling him. But every player has a price. I know that. So I mean, if they get silly money, they might very well say, yeah, you know what, we'll do this deal. But I hope if they are forced into doing a deal, I hope it's for like something like 65, 70 million pounds rather than maybe 45, 50 million pounds, because I don't think that would help them much. But otherwise, I hope they keep him. I hope they keep him because I think he impressed me last season, and I'm sure he'll continue to do well. He's still very young. He's still very, very young. If I'm just trying to look at his, yeah, he's only 22, so he's going to grow and he's going to develop. And again, Serie A is a great place for defenders to develop. So hopefully he stays. And they already sold Sandro Tonali last season, by the way, to Newcastle. So there is that relationship. So maybe it might happen, but I hope they keep him. I hope they do keep him and build on that. On the other hand, speaking of Milan, of course, the other part is that Youssouf Fofana, a midfielder from Monaco, he has agreed personal terms with AC Milan. That was done yesterday, I think, or a day before. It was done very recently that he agreed personal terms with Milan, but Milan and Monaco are negotiating on a transfer fee. The issue that has now come up is that Manchester United are trying to hijack the Fofana deal. And now here's where it gets a little bit confusing for me, because what has been mentioned is that he could be available for 18 million euros. Now, at 18 million euros, that's a decent deal to do. He's older than normally. He's 25 years old. He's not old, but he's 25, which means he's not in that profile of players who's going to grow and get better. I think he's probably one of those who's already done most of his development. He is a French international, of course. And the question is, do you want to do that deal? But so at 80 million euros, it is not a bad deal to do. But what we're hearing instead also is that Monaco have rejected 30 million euros from Nottingham Forest for him. So it doesn't mean they're going to get him for 80 million. Surely that doesn't mean that means that you're not going to get him for 18 million euros. I'm not sure where that number 18 million euros came from, but I just can't believe that it would be true, because if a club has already rejected 30 million euros, then that's just not going to work. So now it could be possible that maybe Nottingham Forest had payment plans and things like that, and that didn't work well for Monaco, and maybe they're okay to go with a lower price if they can get like a higher payment plan thing. So I don't know where this 18 million euro figure has come from if they've rejected 30 million euros, but I still don't think, even with 30, okay, if it was payment plan and they might say, okay, fine, we'll accept 25 or 26 upfront. I still don't think they will go low. They will go as low as 18. I think they'll say maybe 25, 26. We'll take 25, 26 up front. But I don't think they will go down to 18. So I don't know where that number has come from. But what is concerning, of course, from a Milan point of view, is United have already hijacked a deal for Xerxes before. So now they're trying to hijack this deal for Fofana as well, which actually United have been linked with a lot of midfielders. I mean, they've been linked with Rabiot, they've been linked with Richard Rios, they've now been linked with Fofana. I wonder this is another move by the agent to kind of just drum up the interest and drum up the name. I am not sure. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not interested. I just don't see the validity of this deal, because I just don't see how United, they're not going to sign 3 or 4 midfielders. They're only going to sign one, aside from Ugart. Ugart is going to be number one, and they'll probably sign one more. Which I mean, if you are going to sign, because Richard Rios is available for 70 million pounds, which works out about 20 million euros. So unless they are getting Fofana for like 15 or 16 or million euros, or even 20 million euros, then that deal I think makes sense, because you're signing a backup. At 25 million pounds or 30 million euros, it is not a deal worth doing. For me, I don't think it's a deal worth doing, because you don't pay that much for a backup, especially when you don't have a lot of money to play with. So I don't see that happening. I anyway said that unless they can offload Casemiro, they're not going to sign anybody else. So the question is Casemiro going? So I think it's a little bit of hot air, the Fofana deal. I think it might very well be one to make Milan speed up and get through negotiations quicker and make sure that they pay the fee and get that deal done. I think it might be used by the agent for that. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow or day after we hear deal done with Milan. I wouldn't be surprised with that, because I just feel this is a smokescreen. The one that they said 18 million, to me, that is a bit of a giveaway, because if they've rejected 30 million from Nottingham Forest, why would they then say, right, we'll do a deal for 18 million euros? So somewhere something's amiss. I think what's amiss is the fact that I think the agent is just using United's name to kind of force Milan into speeding up the deal. Maybe Monaco using it as well. I'm not sure, but somebody is using Manchester United's name. That is what I feel. It could change tomorrow. We could very well hear that Fofana to United is getting closer and closer, because they do deals fast now, Manchester United. But also I wouldn't be surprised if I heard tomorrow or day after that Milan have completed the deal. Here we go for Fofana to AC Milan. So I feel like that's where that's more likely. The second scenario is more likely. The first thing could happen, but I feel the second scenario is more likely. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that one. But Milan will hit the side of Manchester United. I think if that happens, Milan will definitely hit Manchester United a lot if they also hijack a second deal from them. So that is there as well. So we'll see what happens. And just for that alone, it might be worth watching the fireworks. Yeah, if that just for that. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And finally, I think the last thing to talk about is Noussair Mazraoui. So we briefly touched on it this afternoon. Noussair Mazraoui is attracting interest from both West Ham United and Manchester United. I was a little bit confused by that as well. By West Ham United are interested in him, and they're also interested in Aaron wan-Bissaka. I think what has now come out is that Manchester United are really interested in doing a deal for Mazraoui, but they know that they have to sell wan-Bissaka before they can do the deal. So now what they're thinking is that they will let wan-Bissaka go to West Ham for as low as £10 million. So they were asking for £20 million, but because they want to do the Mazraoui deal now, they're willing to let wan-Bissaka go for £10 million. And West Ham, if they cannot get wan-Bissaka, then they will consider Mazraoui as a backup option. So it's a very confusing thing here that I'm trying to wrap my head around. It is kind of not making sense to me because first West Ham are interested in Mazraoui as well. But now they've said Mazraoui is a backup to wan-Bissaka, which kind of doesn't make sense. But okay, fair enough. And Manchester United, because they're so desperate to sign Mazraoui, even though they're also looking at Ederson, they're still looking at Jeremy Frimpong. Yet now they're very interested in signing Mazraoui, and they're willing to let wan-Bissaka go for £10 million. First of all, Mazraoui will not be available for £10 million. He's definitely going to go for more than £10 million. So why would you want to sell your defender on a cheap just to buy a more expensive backup? Because whoever they buy, unless it is Frimpong, and I think I mentioned this as well, the options that they have other than Mazraoui would be a clear number 2. He's not going to be a number 1. Right? You could Frimpong if they sign Frimpong will be a number 1. Ederson, for me, I think he would probably be a number 1 or a number 2. He could go either. Mazraoui will be a clear cut number 2. So why would you be desperate to sign a number 2 when you already have a number 2 and you're willing to sell your existing number 2 on a cheap? Right? It's one thing if you sell your existing number 1 on for cheap because your number 1 is not that good enough, so you let him go because you don't want him to be number 2. So you let him go and then you buy a more expensive number 1. That makes sense. But why would you let your number 2 go so you can buy a more expensive number 2? That to me doesn't make sense. And what I feel is that if I think there's a lot of confusing reports here which are trying to go in all sorts of different directions. The only thing that I can say to make sense of it is that I think somebody's agent, as I said, has used Mazraoui and has used this whole story to kind of get a deal done faster. Now, whether that is Mazraoui's agent that has used this to try and get a deal done faster, whether it is wan-Bissaka's agent that has tried to use this rumor to and get that deal go faster, or whether it's West Ham that have planted this story to kind of make the wan-Bissaka deal smoother, I'm not sure. But somebody somewhere has planted this story. And if this is true, and if West Ham are actually getting him for £10 million, then they've done a great job, right? Give that person a raise, because that if this is wan-Bissaka, West Ham's doing, give that person a raise because they mission accomplished. But I don't think United will settle for 10 million. And I've said this, I think even 20 million is less, right? Even 20 million is less. You cannot let a player like wan-Bissaka go for 10 or 20 because to replace him, you will have to spend a lot more anyway, right? Whether you sign, because it doesn't matter what your intention might be to sign a player, right? If you're signing a right back, even if it's number 2, the cheapest that you can get a number 2, get a right back, a good right back, somebody who can be an able backup, because you still need a good backup. Right, what you ideally want is that if your number 1 right back is injured, the second right back shouldn't be too far behind in quality where you're thinking, oh my god, what are we going to do without him? So if you're signing a good quality right back, he will still cost you at least £20 million. He will still cost you in the range of £20 million. So if you're going to sell wan-Bissaka, you've got to make sure that you sell him so that you can recover the cost of whatever you used to buy the other defender. If you can get a profit, even better. But if not, at least you have to make sure that you recover the cost from that. £15 million is already a loss, and because Ederson alone was going to be 17, Frimpong will probably be closer to £30 million. So you're already selling him at a loss if you sell him for 15 or 20. Anyway, 20 is break even. 20 is break even. 15 is a loss. If you're going to sign Frimpong, you need to get at least 25. So there's already a problem, and then now this comes up that they're going to sell him for 10. I refuse to believe that there are people like that who work at United anymore, who think that they can selling Aaron Wan-Bissaka for 10 million pounds would be good business just because they can sign Mazraoui. Unless Mazraoui is coming on a free transfer, then I will change my tone. But I don't think he's going to come on a free transfer. I think Bayern are going to demand at least 15 to 20 million pounds for him, because he was quite a regular player last season. He didn't play; he wasn't a regular starter, but he did play quite a lot of games last season. And he is someone that Bayern I think would be okay to keep. It's the same as De Ligt, right? So I refuse to believe that United would countenance selling Wan-Bissaka for 10 million pounds just because they want to sign Mazraoui, unless they're getting Mazraoui for a very cheap cut price, which I don't think Bayern will do anyway. Because Bayern are already pissed off because of Matthias de Ligt and what has happened there, and I don't think they're going to make it easy for Manchester United to go and say, you know what, here you go, sign Mazraoui. We made it hard for you to sign a Matthias de Ligt. We know that. Here, go take Mazraoui for free, or here, go take Mazraoui for 5 million pounds. It's not going to happen. I think they will at least demand 20 million pounds for him. And for that reason alone, Wan-Bissaka cannot be sold for 10. He has to go for at least 15. Even 15 for me is too low. He has to at least go for 20 million pounds. I can't countenance that. So if somehow Wan-Bissaka's agent of West Ham managed to convince Manchester United that through this planted story that 10 million pounds is a great deal for Wan-Bissaka, then well done to them. Well done to them. But yeah, let's hope that is not the case. From a Manchester United fan point of view, I really hope that is not the case, and that that they're not considering this. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I still feel Mazraoui is number 3. I think for Manchester United, if at all he's on the list, I think he's number 3. I think United are probably more interested in Frimpong and Ederson at the moment. Mazraoui seems like an opportunistic deal because the price might be low, but I don't see how low it can be. I can't see how he's lower than Ederson. So, but if somebody knows the price tag for that would be there for Mazraoui, let me know. I don't think Bayern have put a price tag on him yet. But if somebody knows, please put that in the section. Where I think it might make sense also is that Mazraoui and De Ligt, you could do a double deal for them. And sometimes that might work in the favor of the buying club. It can. But sometimes that actually work against you, because if a club is losing 2 players, they sometimes charge a little bit more because they're losing. It's not like, you go to a supermarket and say, well, I'm buying 2 instead of 1, so give me a discount. Usually for buying 2 instead of 1, you actually have to pay a little bit more, because because a club is losing 2 players at the same time, and that makes it a little bit more difficult for the club to replace those players. So it sometimes works the other way, but it could be the case that maybe they feel that they've already softened Bayern enough up for De Ligt, that they feel that talking about Mazraoui might make it a bit more easier for them to do negotiations, to say, okay, we value Mazraoui at 20. So we'll pay you, say for example, 30, let's say 20, 35 and 20 is about 55 million pounds. We'll give you 55 million pounds for him. You can still say that you got 40 for De Ligt and 15 for Mazraoui, which is still fantastic. When you're in, we'll give you 55 for both, and you can adjust it however you want. You could do that as well. That could be a possibility, and United might look at it that way. So that might be a consideration. But I still feel that I still feel that I think it's just a planted story, and we'll know more. I think tomorrow, day after, again, we'll know more in the coming days if this is actually true or if it's just paper talk. Because this is what happens. Sometimes rumors come, they heat up, and then they immediately die down. It happened with Kevin de Bruyne. It's happened with so many other players already. I think this could be another one of those, but one to keep an eye on. And I think we will definitely be looking at it. And if there's any news, I will be here to update you about it on the show. So on that note, let's end it here. There's a lot of things to talk about, of course, and we've covered quite a bit of ground. Of course, the night shows, they're a little bit less hectic, because most of the activity happens during the day, because of the time difference thing. Most of the things happen during the day. The afternoon shows are the ones where you do get a lot more information. The night ones are a bit more chill. It's a little bit more, you get some good rumors, but also sometimes you get some outlandish ones, so they're a lot more chill. So, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. I really hope you enjoyed the show. I enjoyed it, sharing this information, giving my thoughts. Always love it. Do put in the comment section if there's anything you found interesting, if there's anything you found not interesting, if you disagree with something, agree with something, whatever it is, put in the comment section. Always loved hearing from you guys. Would love to continue this chat. So please share your thoughts. Do smash a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Would really appreciate that as well. And do subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. As I said, we're getting very close to 450 subscribers. So please do subscribe on YouTube and help us cross that mark. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night, and I will see you again tomorrow. So take care. Bye-bye.